I'm Candace Breyer, Chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 9-person volunteer citizen board appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the City Council. Our procedure this evening is as follows. First, we will hear from the Planning and Development Services Unit, represented tonight by Mr. John Barrett. Then the petitioner or his or her representative will make his or her presentation. Petitioners will have 5 minutes in which to make their presentations. The board members may ask questions of either the city or the petitioner. We will acknowledge any written comments received by the board. We will allow an appearing party to express their support or objections. The board will discuss the appeal and formulate a resolution to approve the appeal. 5 affirmative votes of the board will be required for an appeal to be granted. Finally, any qualified party who is aggrieved by a decision of the board can appeal that decision to the Washtenaw County Circuit Court on a timely basis. Roll call. Mike Daniel.
Here.
Dave DeVarty.
Here.
Mike Dobmeyer.
Here.
Nicole Eisenman. Todd Grant.
Here.
Julie Weatherby.
Here.
Kirk Westfall.
Here.
Charlotte Wilson. Here. I am also here. We have a quorum. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Support?
Second.
From Julie, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the June 27th, 2018 meeting. Are there any comments or corrections to those minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Kirk, support? From Charlotte, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to public hearings. ZBA 18018, 1001 Vesper Road. John?
Good evening. My name is John Barrett. I'm the zoning coordinator for the city. The first petition this evening is ZBA case 18-018. The address is 1001 Vesper Road. Arthur and Elizabeth Solomon, property owners, are requesting a 4-foot variance from Chapter 55 zoning, Section 5:26 of the Area, Height, and Placement Regulations. The property is zoned R1A, single-family residential, and has a 50-foot rear yard requirement. The owners are requesting to construct an 18-foot 4-inch by 10-foot 4-inch for approximately 190 square foot addition to the rear of the home. The new addition will contain an ADA bathroom and a master bedroom closet. The property is zoned R1A single family and is located at the corner of Vesper Roads and Minglewood Way. The home was constructed in 1948 and is approximately 1,805 square feet in size. The lot size is 27,007 square feet. The variance being requested is a result of the owner's desire to construct a small addition at the southeast corner of the home. The R1A district requires a 50-foot rear yard. If the variance is granted, the addition will be 46 feet from the rear property line. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, the first slide is the zoning location map. You see the parcel is highlighted right here. It's at the corner of the Minglewood Way and Vesper Road, just south of Sunset and west of Brook Street. The next slide is the aerial map showing the surrounding properties and neighborhoods and existing conditions. See, it's just southeast of the water treatment plant. Next slide is the aerial zoom map showing the property and its existing condition. The proposed addition will be right back here in the southeast portion of the property, of the back of the corner of the house. This is the survey that was submitted with the application. You see the existing footprint of the building, and this is the this is the location of the rear addition. This is the placement showing the existing footprint and the proposed footprint. The bolded section right here is the 4-foot encroachment into that 50-foot rear yard. If you'll notice the positioning of the house in relationship to the angled of the lot up front, and you see how the dashed line creates the building envelope in this kind of pie triangular shape, and then you see the house sitting in like this. There is another side of the house right here in this dashed area, the kitchen and a bath that's undergoing some renovations as well, but that's not part of the zoning, the variance application tonight. This section meets the setback requirements, so it's only the bolded section back here. This is the existing footprint. This is the master bedroom. And the 10-foot addition will be coming off the back and showing the proposed elevation, the ADA bathroom with the closet adjacent to it. This is an east elevation showing the addition. The Minglewood Way would be if you were standing right here to your back. This is from the street view. These are the photos that the applicant submitted with their application. This is looking from Minglewood Way towards the property from the east view. And this is with, on the other side of that vegetative barrier. On the interior of the lot, looking at the home, and this is the master bedroom, and the addition would be right off of the master bedroom. Looking directly at the existing condition, the bedroom, and the addition. Just another photo of the rear yard. These are the photos that I took when I made my site inspection. The front of the home. The side yard. This is the area, this is the master bedroom where the addition will come off of. This is looking from the master bedroom towards the back of the property, the abutting property. And you see the thick vegetative barrier between the two properties. The rest of the back of the house. And that's all I have. I'll take questions at this time.
Thanks, John. Questions for staff? Dave?
John, I've just got a theoretical thing. If they were just coming for the addition to the kitchen, technically this is already a non-conforming structure, right? So wouldn't we have like an alteration to a non-conforming structure? I know that's not a technical variance, but it's something that comes before the board frequently.
Well, they have to get the variance because this portion right here encroaches into the rear setback.
I understand, and
Yep.
but I'm just thinking that should we also grant an alteration for the kitchen part, that we're granting an alteration to?
No, they don't need it. They don't need it for two reasons. One, because that alteration meets the setback. You see the dashed line right here?
I see that, yes.
It meets it meets the setback. So it's not, if it would have been up here next to the garage and over this line, then and it wasn't encroached any further, then they would need the alteration.
Or if it was, say, a second floor on top of the garage.
Correct.
Without expanding.
Exactly right. But,
Gotcha.
and then also it's because it meets the setback requirement and it's single family. So they don't need the alteration.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for staff? All right, if the petitioner's here, if you could please step forward, state your name for the record, sign in, you'll have 5 minutes.
Thanks for your time. I'm Arthur Solomon.
And I'm Elizabeth Solomon.
So
And we live at 1001 Vesper, and we love our home.
And Dexter Builders is who we've sanctioned to do this work for us, and our architect, their architect, Rick Foley, will speak on our behalf.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Could you sign it on?
Yep. We'll have some. Name, address. Good afternoon. My name is Rick Foley from Dexter Builders. Currently, we're looking at 1001 Vesper. Vesper, this building was built in the early 1940s. Obviously, it's on the corner of Minglewood and Vesper Heights. And the subdivision there, this is one of the first houses that went into the subdivision. And I'm sure, as we all look at it from a developer's standpoint, it's a corner lot. We want to set the house back off the side. And that kind of made sense at that time period. And I'm sure at that time period, we had a different zoning ordinance. Currently, right now, we're looking at it with today's lens. And it's a 0.62 acre lot that is truncated by this irregular shape. The house, if I was looking at it as a builder, I would say that it's front-facing both lots. Today, if you measure it out, it's about 40 feet linear from both sides. So that kind of creates this building envelope that we're looking at in this slide here. The north side of the home, once again, looking at today's building kind of guidelines, the front side of the home that measures on Vesper is 180 feet, and the side that measures against Minglewood Way is about 200 feet. Current ordinance looks at that and they say, okay, the shortest distance is your front yard and the opposite of the shortest distance is your rear yard. So that's why we're looking at this kind of massive kind of chunk taken out of not only the front yard, it's also taken out of the backyard. If the builder knew today's laws, they would probably have pushed the house farther to the left to be able to maximize that building envelope. Overall, we're looking at a site coverage at 8.9% as the house sits right now. With our proposed addition that does not need the ZBA approval and the portion that does need the ZBA approval, we're looking at a site coverage of 10.2%. As our clients sit here in front of you, you can tell that they've worked hard over their whole career. They bought the house back in 2003. They bought it as a steward of the home. They're big into keeping the mid-century modernism type look to the home, and they're not looking to do an outlandish addition. But they do also have humanistic traits. They're getting older. Elizabeth has a kind of a pre-existing condition that's degenerative, you know. We're basically looking at a position of revamping the home so it can be accessible with a wheelchair. Is it going to meet all the ADA guidelines? Probably not. But what it's going to do is it's going to meet it better than what it is now. The kitchen is going to go a little bit of a shift to make the hallways wider, give it a functional space, also update the appliances and all that kind of stuff. That's phase one. Phase two, we're looking at the master. The house has one bathroom on the main level of the house, which is a full bath. It has a half bath on the left-hand side of the main floor. So the half bath is being sacrificed for space usage in the kitchen. The primary full bath is going to stay as a primary full bath, but it will not be serviced or adjacent to the master bedroom. So we're looking at trying to put an approximate adjacency for aging in place, having proximity of a bathroom to a master kind of bedroom. In addition to that, we are going to also put in a little bit of storage. That bedroom right now does have some closets in it, but we're also looking at a very small bedroom that's going to be needing to access a normal sized bed, nightstands, a space for that wheelchair when you get in and out of bed, that type of space. So part of the addition, kind of luxury space for the live-in kind of walk-in closet, very minimal in size. And then the bathroom, curbless shower, we'll be able to roll in with a wheelchair, handicap rails everywhere for people to get in and off the facilities. It's a pretty cut and dry project, in my opinion, and we've been definitely sensitive to the idea of maintaining the smallest request to the board today. And I think that you can tell by some of the pictures that we've supplied that the visual essence of the house will not be blocked. It's not going to inhibit any kind of view, and you probably won't be able to see it from the street. But I understand we have guidelines to all uphold. So we thank you with hearing our request today, and we hope that you can see this in the same lens that we're looking at it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak on this petition? No? I will note that we received letters of support from 1211 Minglewood Way, 1000 Vesper Road, 1230 Minglewood Way, 1221 Minglewood Way, 940 Vesper Road, and 1100 Olden Road. And with that, we're in discussion. Dave?
I was out there today. I see this as a very minimal request. It's a ranch-style, single-story. I don't see it as a big looming thing. I think the roof line can easily continue back over this and almost just fit in with almost no noticeable difference. The property is very well screened from others in the neighborhood, as are many of the properties in the neighborhood. And I can understand why so many people in the neighborhood wrote notes of support for this. because it is such a modest request to update the bathroom and make it ADA compliant. I'm going to support this.
Any other discussion or motion? Todd?
Discussion. So I've thought about this for a couple of days, and to me, this is a very interesting one because there'll be a lot of people who want to stay in their homes. Everybody's getting older, including even me. And people who want to stay there at some point, anticipating what might happen in the future to have a handicapped accessible bathroom is important. And this is one I would like to say yes to, and I do agree that it's not going to impact any other property, and a 4-foot change from 50 to 46% is unnoticeable. I suspect if people were looking from the street, most people like me couldn't differentiate between 50 feet and 45 feet. It's not something you can see. The problem I have and the tension we run in these, of course, is how strict would apply the ordinance. In the ordinance, the first criteria A says, of course, it has to be something that's peculiar to the property because the variance runs with the property. And here we have the classic case where the need for the variance is occasioned because the occupants are changing, then they're going to need it. It doesn't really run with the occupants, but nonetheless, the variance will be given to the property. So with that little caveat, I really find myself in favor of this as well. But I just see as more of these types of things come up, you have the tension between something that's personal and needful for the individual occupant, but it really isn't because of anything having to do with the property. But I guess I'm willing to overlook that in this case, and given that it's only a 4-foot variance, I will support this as well. But this has been, for me, it's been illustrative of the tension between a strict application of the rules and what, in a more common sense, just makes sense to do without being able to state it any more precisely than that. Do people agree with that? Do you feel this tension too? I guess I'm looking for some reaction to this.
Mike?
Yeah, I do agree with that, Todd, and I would say that for me, what's carrying it here is the very small amount of the variance plus the support of the neighbors plus just the visual impact of this change. And for me, I view part of our role here on the ZBA is to, you know, we need to bring our human judgment into things, right? Or else there's no point to have this board.
Well said.
So yeah, I completely agree with the tension there, but for me here, the factors that you've stated and Dave stated are pushing me over to vote for this.
Julie?
I think for me, and I agree, I think it's a little on the edge for me, but I am happy to see that it's a kind of a weird lot with a little bit of an angle. And that helps me kind of feel like it is a little more peculiar to this property. It's not just a square lot, and that it kind of changes some of the angles a little bit and does make it a little bit less normal. But I agree, you know, we are gonna get a lot of these just as things change. I mean, I live in a neighborhood where lots of people don't have any bathrooms on the first floor, and, you know, are we gonna approve a lot of that? But I think in this case, it does seem to meet the criteria.
Mike?
I have maybe a question for staff or for the applicant. I'm just looking at the proposed main level plan, and I understand that there's a desire to have an ADA accessible shower. It seems like there's a space between the ADA accessible shower and the wall, and I'm wondering if maybe the architect could speak to whether or not the ADA accessible shower would fit into a revised plan that runs up to the setback but not over it. I don't know if that's a question that I can ask,
Yeah.
or if maybe that's just something that I'm kind of thinking about, because I share a lot of this stuff, and I just think that this opens up a can of worms that we're going to be continuing to have to answer to going forward, so.
Can you step up here, please? Thanks.
Thanks.
The master bedroom where the house kind of exists from is about 12 feet, 11, 12-ish feet kind of in depth. And when you're talking about kind of circulation around the bed, once you place that in location, when you minimize the setback request, you lose that 4 feet, and that 4 feet is circulation space.
Okay, so but you mean the circulation space to the master closet that would be added, right?
So
Is that
it'd
what
be
you're saying?
really, if you placed a bed on the door wall, so the door coming in to the master bedroom, you placed a bed right there.
Yep.
The circulation would be able to come around the bed, circumnavigate the bed to the opposite side.
Okay.
And so when you bring that wall back and basically take the room from 13 feet to 9 feet, that circulation space is at the other end of that bed going to be compromised significantly.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry.
and that's why that was placed there.
Is there a way to reconfigure the master bathroom without moving the wall in the bedroom? So I'm talking just basically eliminating the door between the master bathroom and the master closet, maybe getting rid of one of the sinks and then still accommodating the ADA shower that's being desired?
I think that could be achievable.
Okay.
I don't disagree that you could minimize the space by putting a single basin in there and taking off the internal circulation of the master bath to closet and put a second door in for the master closet.
Okay.
I think that definitely could be a possibility.
Okay. I'm not proposing that that's
Yeah.
being done. I guess my point is there are ways to be creative as an architect to achieve what's desired from an ADA perspective. And that's a consideration that we need to weigh in this as well, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I haven't decided on it yet either for the reasons that have been already outlined.
We have been working on this project for about 2 years now, and we have tried every way to get a master bath without adding on to the house, just for the cost. We wanted to keep the cost down. We initially thought we'd take the existing bath and break through to the front bedroom and make that the master bath, but then we would lose a bedroom. And for resale value, we don't want to do that. So we really have thought this all out and feel that the best option for us to have an accessible bathroom is to bump out that wall as it's shown. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Charlotte?
I guess my other comment, adding on to previous comments, in regards to, it looks like the homeowners they've been there for 15 years, had been using the bathroom with only one sink, it looks like, and this is adding an additional one. I think that could be a possible way to, I guess that was already addressed with trying to get into the closet there, but that could maybe possibly reduce, but that's just one comment.
Mike?
I'm also trying to think about the fact that we get a lot of these that are requests for additions that don't necessarily, all due respect, I understand that there's been a lot of planning that's going into a lot of these cases that we get in front of us. But people know at the time of buying their homes what they're getting. They know what type of footprint they have to build on. And I think that more than anything, I think this is reasonable in a lot of ways, but I'm trying to, I guess, just bring it up that this is something people need to be thinking about. And it shouldn't be our job to say no and be feeling poorly about that afterwards, not that we are, or having to answer to whether or not someone can get resale value on their home, because they know what the building envelope is when they buy it. So.
Kirk?
Thanks. As is pretty typical, I agree with almost everything that's been said so far, and and there have been applications similar to this, as we all know, that have not past. Not that it's precedent-setting, and we weigh the merits of each project. So I guess I'm very much on the edge for this. Of course, the applicants maintaining the structure, improving the structure, not looking to tear down, rebuild, and appears to be, through 2 years of planning, appears to be trying to minimize the amount of disturbance and change and cost. I guess what is weighing in my mind is the irregular shape of the lot, which makes it and the orientation of the house, which makes it difficult and fairly uncommon. The fact that this setback that is being encroached is quite large already, so proportionately it's quite a small change. The proximate southern neighbor is supportive, as are the surrounding neighbors. So that is pushing me towards being favorable, but I take very seriously the cautions I think we've all raised about these types of requests, and that as the community ages, we'll be seeing more of these. This strikes me as the minimum, if not the minimum, very close to the minimum necessary. So I guess I'm weighing in favor of approval.
Any other comments or motion? Mike?
Make the motion.
Sure.
All right, so this is petition ZBA 18-018, 1001 Vesper Road. Based on the following findings of fact and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the following variances from Chapter 55, Section 526, Area Height and Placement Regulations, to allow a variance of 4 feet in order to construct an 18-foot, 4-inch by 10-foot, 4-inch addition to the rear of the residence. The rear yard requirement is 50 feet. The result will be a 46-foot rear yard. The addition is to be built per the submitted plans. A, the alleged practical difficulties are peculiar to the property and result from conditions which do not exist generally throughout the city. B, that the practical difficulties which will result from a failure to grant the variance include substantially more than mere inconvenience, inability to attain a higher financial return, or both. C, the variance, if granted, will not significantly affect surrounding properties. D, the circumstances of the variance request are not self-imposed. E, the variance request is the minimum necessary to achieve reasonable use of the land or structure.
I have a
Second.
motion from Todd, motion from Mike, support from Todd. Julie?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Charlotte?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mike Daniel?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Mike Dobmeyer?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
The request is granted. Moving on to petition ZBA 18-019-822 West Jefferson Street. John?
The next petition this evening is ZBA 18-019. The address is 822 West Jefferson Street. Cameron Holdings property owners are requesting a 13-foot variance from Chapter 55 zoning, Section 5:57, averaging an existing front setback line, in order to construct a new deck on the west side of the residence. The average front setback is 26 feet inches, and the new requested dimension will be 13 feet 6 inches. If approved, the new deck will be 27 feet wide by 10 feet in depth for a total of 270 square feet. The subject property is located at the corner of Jefferson Street and South 7th Street. The property is zoned R2A, two-family residential, but it is a single-family dwelling. The home was built in 2016 and is approximately 2,384 square feet in size. The property is in the Old West Side Historic District. The proposed deck received approval from the Historic District Commission on June 14, 2018. The existing deck and a portion of the front porch on the eastern side of the home are to be removed as part of this variance request. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, the first slide shows the location map of the property. You see it's highlighted at the center, and you see it's south of West Liberty Street, at the corner of Jefferson and South 7th. The next slide is the aerial map showing the existing property, neighborhoods, and surrounding conditions. The next slide is the aerial zoomed photo. This is from 2015, so it shows the home, or the lot is vacant. The home was built in 2016. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with this property, but it is complete, and you'll see the pictures soon to follow. This is the survey that was submitted with the application, and you can see right here that the proposed deck is going to be on that western side of the lot, and it's going to be 13 feet, 6 inches from the property line on 7th. This is an elevation sketch showing the deck from the side. A diagram or rendering from what the final construction of the deck will look like. These are some of the photos that were submitted with the application by the applicant. You see the front, this is the front porch. And the next slide shows these are sections of the front porch that are going to be removed. And this is the location where the deck will, the proposed deck will be. And so 7th Street is over here on the right-hand side of the slide. This is the existing front porch and decking that runs along the front of the home that's going to be removed. A little bit of history on that. One of the first permits I permitted at the city in December of 2015 was this permit. On the permit, on the site plan, it said that there was going to be along here, there was going to be a patio. Patios by definition are at grade. So I was under the assumption that this was going to be at grade, and that grade can go up to the property line. However, this was a decking above grade, so currently it does not meet the 3-foot setback requirement. The current property owners did not build the home. They purchased it as it is, and as I stated earlier, and part of this variance agreement, this will be removed and will come into compliance.
And I'm sorry, I missed the last part, John,
Will come into compliance.
Thank you.
Another slide showing the decking and the driveway next door. These are some samples of the decking material, the railing, what the proposed deck will look like. Architectural elements, see the decking and the railing. This is a overview or outlay of the deck, just a standard 27 feet long, 10 feet deep. These are the photos that I took at my site inspection. This is what the house looks like today. With my back, or I'm standing on Jefferson Street. And you've seen this slide before, existing condition with the proposed deck to be removed, that area. This is the area, there's 7th Street over here, and the side of the house, the western side of the house where the deck, proposed deck will be. You see the landscaping that's going to be, has been installed. Arborvitae's going to act as screening material. Better view of that. This photo is what I took to give you some perspective of the abutting property and how that creates the average front setback of 26 feet, 6 inches, and it comes across down here in front of this house. So essentially, they can't do anything with the entire west side of their house. And this deck is going to be for living space, and that's the only place they have to put living space. Photo of the area where the deck will be. This is the rear of the house. You enter from South 7th Street into the back of the garage. This is looking along 7th Street to give you some better perspective. This is looking south on 7th. This is looking north on 7th Street. That's the end of my slides and the end of my presentation, and I will take questions at this time.
Thank you, John. Questions? Julie?
So they could put a terrace or a patio on the west side, correct? Up to the property line, should they want to?
Yes, at grade. But if you notice, the difference between where the house, the floor is in the basement, you've got a severe grade, and the applicant will also speak to this. There's going to be a door, this window is going to be removed, and this is going to be a door that enters out onto the deck for the occupants.
Yeah, I walk by this house a lot, so I'm
So that's
pretty
the
familiar with
plan.
it. Yeah.
Any other questions, Dave?
Since this is in the Old West Side Historic District, if we were to approve this deck, the owner couldn't really make any substantial changes, even though we're granting them a setback variance. Any structural elements would have to go through the Historic District Commission, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I will add, I've only done this one other time in 3 years doing this, and I am recommending for this tonight due to the fact that it's a corner lot. It's a peculiar and unique situation. The owners didn't do this. They didn't build this house, the current owners. The previous builder did this kind of mistake where they've left the property with no living space. They've slammed this house against this property line runs right here along this driveway. They literally have 3 feet from the driveway to the house. So they don't have any living space. And the only place they have to occupy the outside is the western side of the house. So, and then they're obviously willing to come into compliance with all this decking and remove that. And also the West Side Historic District has already approved it. So to me, it's something I feel comfortable with recommending approval of this variance.
Todd?
So just to clarify, maybe I misunderstood. So going back to that picture, the garage and the driveway on the right side of this photo, that does not belong to the house we're looking at, but the neighbors.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't understand. Good. I'm
Yep.
glad that.
So this garage is non-conforming, doesn't meet the 3-foot setback, but it was
Right.
probably built 80 years ago.
Right.
And this driveway goes right up to the property line.
Okay, that's right, because then their driveways are around back, I saw. Right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Kirk?
I don't know if this has any bearing on the discussion, but I'm just curious, did this arise out of a complaint about encroachment by this narrow deck?
The next door adjacent property owner called with concerns about it. The property owner right here he owned this property and he sold this. And sold it to the person who developed it and built it. So it was originally his anyway. And so then he had some concerns about that. And so I'm sure he's going to be more than glad and willing to have this section removed. But he's not, complaining about it. We've discussed it with him, and he's aware of the situation.
Any other questions? All right, if the petitioner's here, if you could please step forward, state your name for the record, and sign in. You'll have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Betty Marvin, and I represent Cameron Holdings, the property owner. I want to start out by saying I feel a little frivolous talking about a deck after the previous client with all these needs and ADAs, but it is what it is. We would like to move forward with this. I want to thank John in helping us on this. Part of the history of what we've done when we first looked at this house, the very first thing we noticed was the porch is on the brick of the neighbor's driveway. And we went, And the neighbor was out and she said, oh, no, it's not a problem. We've got an agreement and there's no problem. And we said, oh, okay, this is great. We proceeded to buy the house. And when we've looked at the outdoor space of where to put a grill, where to put some chairs to enjoy the outside, visit with your neighbors, whatever, as John said, there is nowhere to put it. We've thought about cantilevering over the driveway, going out of the back of the house, but then you run into the poles when you try to get into the driveway, into the garage, so that didn't work logistically. So we came up with this plan. We did go to the Historic District and said they've approved moving the window and replacing it with the door. When we take the, my directions are horrible, east side deck off, where the door is now, the window from the west side is going to go into that place. So the Historic District has approved all of that. We wouldn't move forward if we didn't have their approval. So we're very pleased that they looked at it on a site location and said, yes, we would go through with this. We've reduced our size. We originally had 27 by 12. We reduced it down to 10 feet wide to kind of help with that. And the distance, although it seems like a really big deck, what we're working against is that bay window. You either have to go before the bay window or after the bay window. And then when you put the door in, you run into problems with that. So that's why we came up with the dimensions that we did.
Thank you. Any questions for the petitioner, Todd?
Yes, ma'am, how big is the deck leading into the front door?
I don't know.
Okay,
I'll be
maybe
honest, I
staff
don't
knows.
know. It's not very big. In the one photo, you can see there's a chair, and that's about all, especially when we take off that side deck.
True.
We're going to have to, it'll be right to the post, and we're going to have the front porch match the side, the new proposed deck, so it looks like it flows. But there isn't room there for a grill or, I mean, it's, and we really don't want to put a grill on the front porch. We don't think that's, looks really good.
Any other questions?
Just to further answer that, Todd, I'd say currently it's about 12 feet wide by about 6 feet deep.
Okay.
And then in this picture, you can see where it's going to be removed all the way up to that pillar. And so then it'll be compliant with the side setback when all of that's removed. So essentially, like Ms. Marvin said, you'll get a chair on that front porch. That's about it.
We didn't realize there was a problem with that side deck after our initial viewing of it until John called and said, hey, as the new owners, we've been trying to resolve this because there was an issue with the setbacks. We were not aware of it, never came out in closing or anything. And he said, I've been trying to get a survey done, and the previous owner wouldn't do it. And so I said, well, yeah, we got a survey and submitted it. And that's when we started talking about, yeah, it's not within the setback rules. So we have no problem taking that down, putting some flowers along that side of the house, and that way that side is in compliance.
And the reason why I was requesting a survey was to make sure the house was in compliance. The house is in compliance. I wanted the structure to be in, the decking is not, so we're correcting that hopefully tonight.
Dave, did you
And it's
have
been a long way.
question?
It's been since December of 2015, so here we are.
Okay. Any other? Oh,
I do have a question.
Sir?
So it looks like this deck that's not in compliance that they're removing is basically a walkway to another egress from the home. Are they, if they remove that egress, are they still in compliance without the deck they're proposing? If they remove that egress, does that put them out of compliance for fire egresses? Because you need 2 first-floor egresses.
And they'll have that, they're just flip the other side, they're gonna take that window out and put it where that door is, and then that door's coming on the other side where the deck's gonna be. So they'll have the,
But almost, if they take this off the east side,
Yep.
to remain compliant with fire code, they almost have to put another means of egress in, don't they, somewhere?
they'll have a front door egress,
Right.
a west side egress, and then they'll have the garage down below too on the back.
Okay, gotcha.
They'll have 3 means of egress.
Okay.
any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on this petition? If so, please step forward, state your name for the record, and sign in.
My name is Ed Kelly. I live at 504 South 7th Street. I've been living in Old West Side for 31 years now. I watched this house go up over the past 3 years. Said, well, it's a Bigfoot house. It pushed it to the front setback, it pushed it to the other front setback, pushed it to the side setback. And then the rear, where it drops down, they tucked the garage underneath so they could get more square footage in the house. As far as the arborvitae that were planted last year, and I saw that same thing happen on Jefferson Court as you go down it. There was another Bigfoot house that was put on a lot back there that was part of the Butcher Willits construction. They built up to the setbacks too, put the arborvitae along the street, and then requested a big deck addition beyond the setbacks. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this house is too big for the neighborhood, but it got through. They want to put a deck on now. They should have thought about a deck when they designed the house, made it smaller so they could have a full front porch. They only have a half a front porch. They get more square footage. So I guess I'm opposed to the deck just because they push the limits on everything. Now they're trying to screen it so they can put a deck on it. With that, I'm done.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this petition? I will note that we received a letter of support from 821 West Jefferson Street, as well as 818 West Jefferson Street. And we are in discussion. Todd?
Yeah, maybe I'm really plunging into the water here. John, I disagree with your opinion on this. For me, I have to vote no on this. It's pretty easy for me because, let me say first that the home is a beautiful home. A bicycle by it is close to Jefferson Market. It's a wonderful neighborhood. And one of the nice things, stereotypically, as you think about the Old West Side, is people actually hang out in front of their homes as opposed to hiding behind their homes. So it's a beautiful home. It's new. These are the second owners, but they bought it knowing what they were getting into. In terms of addressing the 5 criteria that we need to address, I don't think it clearly meets 2 of them. First is criterion B. You're talking about a home that's really nice and you can enjoy the yard. You don't really have to have the deck to really use the house. And criterion E, is it the minimum necessary? No, you're talking about taking a 26-foot setback and chewing it in half down to 13 feet, so it's not the minimum. So on one hand, I mean, the way I look at it, it's an absolutely gorgeous house now. It's perfect, it's new built, and the owner is in the perfect situation. I always thought the perfect thing to do is to be the second owner after the first one has owned the home for 2 years and fought with the builder for 2 years. And everything's fixed, you know exactly what you're getting into. And I think they got a great home, and I think they can fully enjoy it without putting a deck. And as John Barrett said, they can put a surface patio over part of their lawn and enjoy that too. I really don't think this is necessary. I sound sort of curmudgeonly when I say this, but this one's pretty easy for me. I'm sorry, John.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
So I'm going to vote no on this.
Julie?
I have to agree with those comments. I watched this house being built and was super surprised that it went up for sale after it, because it took a long time for them to build it. And, you know, it seemed very particular to this lot. I agree that gangplank walkway on the side is terrible, and that is good to be gone. But my house is essentially the same configuration. It's not as slopey, but it's on one side of the lot. There's no door to the side that has the largest lawn. We come out the front door and go to the side yard if we need to do that. I see no reason. There's a lot of houses around town that are like this, where the side yard is the biggest yard and there's no door that goes to it. There's no deck, there's no porch. It's just a yard. And I think a yard is a nice thing to have. It's also a yard on 7th Street, and 7th Street has a lot of front-facing porches, and the fact that this has, would be kind of just this deck sticking out the side on 7th, I think is very, it's very unattractive to me. My guess is this going to be a rental, and people want to hang out on the porch and have a party porch. It might be homeowner, but it's a big house. I don't see any, and again, John, I'm sorry, because I value your, your judgment on this, but I think decks are somewhat unusual in this neighborhood. Porches are much more common, and to do a variance for a deck sort of jutting out on the side, I can't see doing it. I see no reason for it.
Sorry, we're in discussion. Mike?
I share a lot of the same thoughts. I guess the only thing I would add is the idea of cantilevering a porch over where the garage is in the back sits better with me than what we've got here. So I just want to say that.
Any additional discussion? Kirk?
I think this is a question for Mr. Barrett. Do you have a rough comparison of the dimensions of the existing narrow deck versus the square footage of what's proposed? You know, the new one is around 270. And my line of thinking is, you know, it sounds like a clear benefit for the side one to be, the encroaching one to be removed, and I'm just curious about the net change in outdoor square footage.
So I would say, looking at the scale on the survey, that you're asking what the square footage is on the existing side deck. It's probably at least 40 feet in length, maybe 45, 50 feet by 3 feet wide. So that's probably 150 square foot of decking there on along the side.
Yeah, thank you for that. I guess I'm torn just because this looks like it's remedying a wrong. But the question is the proposed solution an unfair sort of advantage to be given? So I'm struggling with that. Would like to hear some other thoughts.
Mike?
I guess just to finish up the math on that, I'm looking at the survey, and I just want to confirm with you, John, we're talking about a 27-foot-long deck that's 10 feet wide?
Correct.
So we're talking about a deck that's 270 square feet versus 150 square feet currently.
And kind of my thought process is, when you apply that average front setback, due to the fact that it's on a corner lot, it essentially renders that whole side yard on that western side unbuildable. And a deck doesn't have a roof over it. It's not a roof structure, so it's unenclosed, it's open. And so I thought it was somewhat of an unobtrusive structure, and it's making somewhat good use of living space for these folks on that side of the lot. And thought it was, like Kirk said, remedying a situation. So that was my thought process, but I'm not offended if anyone disagrees with me. It's fine.
Todd, go ahead.
To me, that's what's so interesting about these meetings, because, John, these are things about which reasonable people will differ, and your view certainly has reason and logic to it. I think it just comes down sometimes to how people weigh the different criteria given their own background or propensity, and to me, I don't see the necessity, but I do understand your logic.
Dave?
I've just been sitting here thinking, this is one I wasn't sure, a very hard call for me. I listened to Mr. Kelly, who presented his point of view tonight before the meeting, and I have to agree with him. This is a 2,300 square foot home, almost 2,400 square feet. So in terms of talking about living space, this already has more living space than probably most of the homes in this Old West Side neighborhood. I lived there on Madison on 3rd years ago, and these homes are not huge. And I think whoever developed this site, as Mr. Kelly pointed out, maxed it out to get as much space as possible. Well, now they're looking for some outdoor space, and for me, the question is, and I'm listen to my fellow members here on the board, maybe they could have outdoor space as a patio out there. I am concerned about if they do remove the egress on the east side, that there be another egress just for fire and safety exit concerns. But maybe that egress could just be a staircase to a patio, you know. So I'm still weighing this, but I'm listening to everybody's point of view here. And I have to say right now, I'm leaning against it because I think there may be other solutions to create some outdoor space for the residents here. And I don't want to compound a situation that I feel like the developer who built this took advantage of the community in maxing the site out and really doing something that is not in keeping with that Old West Side historic neighborhood.
I'll just say quickly, my biggest struggle with this is that the building is so new. And while I recognize that the current petitioner is not the one who built it, I think I would be more sympathetic to the request if this house was 50 years old or 80 years old or 100 and some years old, because then there's that, yes, it was built without current standards in mind. But as many of my fellow board members have said, this house was built under the current zoning regulations, and the site was maxed out. If there was a desire for outdoor living space via a deck or a patio or whatever, then I think that maybe should have been contemplated in the original design and that thought of then. So that is kind of where I'm hung up on this now, is a site that's already maxed out, does it really need 270 square feet of more space? Mike?
I have a question for staff. If, I like the idea of a patio and a stairway down there, is there anything that we would need to see to put a stairway down from what is in essence a second floor, 1.5 story down to the ground there?
The owners by right could build a stoop, by a 20 square foot stoop off of that, and then leading down to a patio. It would have to receive approval for the HDC, I believe. I'd have to confer with the HDC director on that, but that would be an option. I'm not sure if that's an option for the petitioner at this time, though. I can't speak for her.
Thanks.
Could you review what the HDC weighs? Because I know it's quite a process to get through that, and I'm just want to be respectful of what they have looked at. I don't know if it would help inform my thinking on whether this is appropriate, but could you just give us a overview of that?
I know they look at the architectural features, architectural elements, and the overall design and materials being used on the deck. And it received approval. And they just wanted it, at the time, the applicant said that it was going to be 12 feet wide, and the HDC requested it to be reduced a little bit in mass down to 10. And so they obliged with that request.
And can you just describe, again, I'm coming back to this kind of swap idea that this side thing would be removed. What benefits would accrue by removing this narrow side deck, other than just formally coming into compliance?
Other than coming into compliance, this would be a personal opinion. I think it would be removing a feature of the house that isn't compatible with the rest of the house. That kind of boarded walkway doesn't fit with the character of the rest of the house. So it would remove a unsightly architectural feature and bring the structure into compliance. and be less obtrusive to the neighbors.
Dave?
Okay, thanks.
Another question for staff. When this was built 2 years ago, did this structure or the plans or the site plan have to go before the HDC at that time?
It did.
So the HDC signed off on this use of the site at a maximum of the square footage of the lot?
Yes, because it fit within the building envelope.
Okay.
And it met the criteria that's required for their design elements.
Mike?
So for me, the point that's pushing me to know is what I've heard from a few of my fellow commissioners about the recency that this was built in, and so that's carrying the day for me, so I'm gonna vote no.
Julie?
I just looked up the staff findings for the HDC on this, and one of the things in which was of consideration for me is it is a non-conforming structure. And while the HDC still looks at it, they look at it as a non-conforming structure. You know, one of the staff comments was the deck would be very visible since it's a street-facing elevation. The reason they approved it, it looks like, was because it doesn't really affect other houses in the area because it is on the one side, you know, the side, like the street-facing side. From my purpose as a pedestrian, that's the side I see, so it is concern to me, but I think the HDC, it's kind of a non-conforming use from what it looked like. So.
Any further discussion or motion, if everyone's ready?
Yep.
Todd?
Yes, so petition ZBA 18-019 pertaining to 822 West Jefferson Street. So based on the following findings of facts and in accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the following variances from Chapter 55, Section 557, pertaining to averaging an existing front setback line to allow a variance of 13 feet to construct a new wood deck that's 10 by 27 feet. The average front setback is 20 feet 6 inches. The wood deck is to be built per the submitted plans. And the 5 criteria to weigh are A, the alleged practical difficulties are peculiar to the property and result from conditions which do not generally exist throughout the city. B, the practical difficulties which will result from the failure to grant the variance include more than mere inconvenience or the inability to obtain a higher financial return or both. C, the variance if granted will not significantly affect surrounding properties. D, the circumstances of the variance request are not self-imposed. And last, E, the variance request is the minimum necessary to achieve reasonable use of the land or structure.
I have a motion, do I have support? Support's from Mike. Mike Daniel.
No.
Dave.
No.
Mike Dobmeyer.
No.
Todd.
No.
Julie.
No.
Kirk.
No.
Charlotte.
No.
I also vote no, the request is denied. Moving on, we have no unfinished business. Just a minute, we have public comment in just a minute. We've addressed new business, communication, we have addressed as part of each of the requests, public commentary. If there's anyone here who wishes to speak, please step forward, state your name, and sign in.
Didn't we just see you a few minutes ago?
You did. So now I'm confused. I respect your decision. I don't agree, but I respect it. But now my question is, what do I do with the deck on the side that's not in compliance?
I would suggest you contact staff, and they can work through that with you.
Okay, because if we take that off, and then I have a door there, then I have some issues with building codes. So I'm not clear what I'm supposed to do.
Understood. Staff will help you work through that.
We can't help you there, and it's not.
We'll work through those issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn? From Kirk, support. From Julie, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.